let's talk about Anne with an E from the late 2010s. The third proper attempt at filming the Anne of Green Gables books, which are, for the most part, out of copyright. So they're free for anybody to do with what they want. Not all of them. The last few aren't. But most of it. And so it's totally in line of expectation that every 30 years or so somebody will want to do Anne of Green Gables, because it's a timeless story that is beloved by so many countries around the world. Anne with an E was quite a refreshing way of going. From the moment it started, I knew, okay, they're gonna bring this into the now. They're gonna bring this into modern, our current day vision, possibly even slightly more than that of what the story of Anne should be. And they surpassed that even for me. I was not expecting them to go as far as they did. Season 1, they don't go quite as far. Season 1 is still quite trying to follow the book, except that people who were supposed to die didn't, and people who weren't supposed to die did. And it's like, now what's going on? Why are they doing this? There's pretty much after that they go way off the rails, and I would say from that point on we're talking fanfiction, which, hey, I'm a fan of fanfiction, so that works for me. It doesn't all have to be the same. Like in the 1980s version, the third installment of Anne of Green Gables was also fanfiction. There was absolutely no book that described what happened in that movie. That did not go over well. The first two were takes on some of the books. And those were very famous. And a lot of people still say, okay, that was our Anne. That was...
She grew up, and people don't like it when their childhood heroes grow up.
Yeah, that's hard. And they can... The thing is, nobody so far has actually filmed what... I was about to say what Lucy Maud Montgomery actually wrote, because she wrote at least 50 years of Anne's life. But the films in the 1940s did try to do that, because they actually did the Windy Poplars one, and that was because that one had just come out. That was one of the last things that Lucy Maud Montgomery wrote. So they're probably hot off the press, right off after doing the first book, which was way out of copyright, possibly even then already way out of copyright. I don't know. No, I get a no from the peanut gallery.
No, it takes 70 years for something to 70 or more years for
back then as well in the 40s.
Yeah, but she was still alive in the 40s.
She was alive, yeah.
So she didn't write it when she was 0.
True.
She can. That's the point. The copyright is so long that it doesn't run out in the person's lifetime.
Yeah.
That's why you have the copyrights the length they are.
Yeah. But I don't know if the copyrights were that long in the 1940s as well. Okay, well, so then they must have made a deal with Lucy Maud Montgomery and then said, oh, and we want to do your newest novel as well. And that's much less likely to get filmed ever again, because, not ever, but for a while, because it's still in copyright and it will remain so for easily 20 years.
If they ever start another series, which unfortunately we know this is not the one, where they get that far, they will be able to pay for the rights. You just have to get book rights.
You make a deal with the estate. It's not. I mean, this is what people do. It's a very normal way of going. It doesn't have to be out of copyright for you for films to be made of.
No, but you do have to have money if it's a
yes,
desirable
and money. This is a Canadian production, and in the 1940s films were Hollywood productions, but the rest was Canadian productions, and that's a different level of money. There's clearly not the same amount of hundreds of millions that goes on, And even for something like Anne of Green Gables, even as famous as it is, I wonder if you could ever bring in hundreds of millions out of making a feature movie out of it. They should try once, but yeah, it's just not going to be in that kind of a range. I might get back on the money because there is something to say about that. However, this Anne with an E, this version from 2017 to 2019, was made by Moira Walley Beckett. I know nothing about this woman, but I like it. I like it. I knew she understood what I think Lucy Maud Montgomery was trying to write. She was trying to write about an orphan situation, what happens to orphans in that society. And we're talking the 1880s. Even this version is, even though they put it before the other versions, still puts it at the late 1890s, which is not Anne's age. It is not true. In the Rilla of Ingleside, yes, I am gonna go there. I read all the books. So, in Rilla of Ingleside, Anne is 50. And in 1918, when the war ends, it's Anne's birthday, and she's 50. So, it's very easy to do the calculations. I don't understand why anybody has problems with these calculations. You can count. So she is not going to be 15, 16, or even 11 as the story starts in 1896.
Yes, she is.
No. She's 50 in 1918. That means she is from 1868.
Yeah.
So if she's 11, it's 1879. So it should be at the beginning of the 1880s. That's what it. And Anne talks about her brown dress. Hello, it's not a blue dress. It's a brown dress in the book, and there's a reason why it's a brown dress. Now I am perfectly okay with the Sullivan Entertainment in the 1980s saying, "Listen, we cannot put a teenage girl, in a brown dress and be happy about it." No, in the 1980s you couldn't do that. Although I would like it. 1970s you could have done that. Brown was all the rage in the 1970s, but not in 86. So they put her in a powder blue dress, and okay, fine, that's good. I like it.
It was also a very happy version of the story.
Yes, it was a very happy, rosy version.
Exactly.
And what I liked about Anne with an E is that it is the gritty, let's look at this for realsies version, which is really what we do nowadays. We're like going, okay, that was great because everybody had rose-tinted glasses and powder blue dresses, but
but everybody hated it. Everybody hated this show.
The Anne with an E. Yeah, it didn't. Not I don't know everybody. I mean, it didn't go over well. Yeah,
they stopped because of it.
No, they did not stop because of public sentiment.
Yeah, okay.
Nobody knows why they stopped because by that time it was Netflix, and that's it's a difficult thing. What I found out is that fans found out. So this is hearsay, is that there was use of dialogue from the Sullivan movies in the Anne with an E movies, and that wasn't straight from the books. Therefore, it had Sullivan copyrights on it. And there was a court case, and this and that, and there was a settlement, and some millions went from one place to another, which is great for Sullivan Productions, and copyrights, that's what you have copyrights for, so that's fine, that is legal, and it's the right result. However, that does mean that those several millions were no longer available in the pot of making possibly season 4. See, I don't know anything. All I know is that this information came out with fans doing research of public documents. So that might be the reason why there's no season 4. However, I have an idea. Because, like I said, the Anne books cover at least 50 years, and she doesn't die at the end of the last book. So we can get back to it. Amybeth McNulty as Anne, Geraldine James as Marilla, and we got Matthew, Diana, and Gilbert. Lucas J. Zuman as Gilbert. There's no reason why we can't get them back. Just wait a few years. And all those books were just all over the place in the life of Anne. So there's this Anne of the Island. You can do all of that, which actually Marilla doesn't take. Marilla and Matthew don't have a big role in, or at all. Interesting things about people who die and don't die. Spoiler: Matthew doesn't die in this one.
Yay!
Yes, this is why I'm willing to say this is a spoiler. Not that this is going to be a spoiler-free thing, but Matthew is such a lovely character, and it's R.H. Thompson plays it. I haven't seen him in anything else, but oh my god, so good, so good. As was Geraldine. James as Marilla, they're all so good. The casting was impeccable. And it was lovely, and I love the clothing. Okay, so you got Anne comes in, and then Marilla, who is literally two generations behind mentally with the rest of the world, because she lives at the end of the road, at the end of the littlest town, the last farm at the very end of that road is where she lives, and she has lived all her life. She puts Anne in these black Puritan clothing, and that's directly out of the book. And what Anne had was also directly out of the book. It was just too shabby to even call a dress. So she needed clothes pretty much instantaneously. And then you have Diana Barry, who's wearing something like this, really, really pretty and fine, more puff sleeves and blue flowers all over it. And it's like, you see them both walking. It's just amazing. The first scene next to the lake is like, that is exactly as Lucy Maud Montgomery had described it. And no one has filmed it that way. But now we have. Now we have it. So I was absolutely delighted. They also immediately went into her trauma at the orphanage and at the previous people that she worked for. The Sullivan production tried to do that.
They did. I think
they did. Yeah, they did start it with showing how absolutely miserable, what kind of misery she was in, and what unreasonable things were demanded of her, and that was really, she was trying to hold on to that when she was being placed back at the orphanage, because that was better than the orphanage. I mean, come on. So it was all. But when she gets to Marilla's, she says that orphanage was the worst of all. That doesn't really show in the 1980s version what she bases that on, but we'll have her word for it. And that's why she was like, she would rather stay with this woman who abuses her. She's being treated like a house slave, and she's having to take care of like 3 sets of twins.
But that was the expectation.
At the age of 10. Yeah.
That was the expectation of her life. As an orphan, she was going to end up as this. Yeah. And then Marilla, by ending up at Marilla's by accident, because she got there because Marilla wanted a boy to help with the farm, and they sent her a girl, and we don't know how that mix-up happened. And then Marilla was confronted with the fact that girls actually need stuff, and then Marilla was nice enough to provide it and not just bulldoze all over her life and just pass her off to somebody else. And so
she tried. Marilla did try to do that. And then it took literally being in Anne's presence and seeing what she would be going towards if she doesn't take care of this kid. And then Marilla changes her mind. But that is a huge step for two single roommates, because it's like brother and sister. They are family, but they're not a family, you know. It's not that kind of a family. But they take on this girl, and then immediately Matthew says, I need to hire a boy from town. And in this version, it is a French boy, because that's in the book. There are French immigrants in town, and they're looking for work. And this boy, and they make a big deal out of it, that he doesn't go to school. He's Anne's age, and he doesn't get to go to school. So, in a sense, who's worse off? Like, they're both in absolutely shitty positions.
They already tried to getting a boy from the orphanage, which was probably an English-speaking boy, but they got a girl. They can't try it again.
Yeah.
Because if they said get another girl, they're in this trouble twice over. They
and
can barely manage get to give Anne what she needs.
Yeah. They have a house, they have a farm, but food is like 3/4 of your budget. And they make their own food. They do trade, they probably sell stuff, you know, surpluses, and then buy other stuff. In the 1980s version, it was all about the general store. Matthew goes to the general store. He buys this. Then he buys her a dress, and he buys sugar, pounds and pounds of sugar. That is really not how it was. They weren't that affluent. They were clearly the least well-to-do of the entire town, when the town was very spread out. And you can see it in every version that Mrs. Lynde has a lot more money. She has a husband, she has a farm. The husband doesn't seem to work on the farm, so they got people to do that, and they had bunches of children. They are all gone now, because she's a somewhat middle-aged older woman. As is Marilla. They are both middle-aged. In this one, Matthew is younger. I don't know why they did that. I mean, significantly younger, like Marilla raised him. So there's no need for that. But maybe they were like, we don't want to kill Matthew in this version.
It does take away a little bit the impetus for getting a boy in to help, because that was very clear in the other version. The Marilla and Matthew were getting on.
They were past marriage age.
Basically, because Marilla had never married and had no sons, therefore, and Matthew acquired no wife and had no sons. Matthew was getting on, and they needed a hand.
Yeah.
And that's why they went to the orphanage to get a boy, and then they got a girl.
And it's specific that in all versions, the arrival of Anne at the station, and Matthew going to the station, talking to the station master, and that whole dialogue, it is indestructible dialogue. Every version has it verbatim. And you're going, okay, well, that's why it's world literature. That's why it's one of those things that nobody can get around. Because he meets Anne, and then he's like, he asked for a boy. He was the one who convinced Marilla they needed to get help. And the way to get help was either you hire from town, but that means you can't build it up. You can't later give the farm to the hired help. And it didn't seem to have any extended family either, which is not entirely true in the books, because there is actually extended family, which doesn't help at all, because they end up with 2 very small children when the extended family dies, and then all of them are raising the 2 kids, and that all happened. That was all done in Road to Avonlea. If you ever want to see that, it's a 7-season series by the Sullivan Productions. And they do practically everything else that are in the books. They do that. But not from Anne. if we call I view the 1980s version as a very romanticized, lovely version of Anne of Green Gables. It's like, yes, she has problems and the world is serious, but her both the way that it was filmed, it's more opulent. There is no way that they would have had such a lovely home in the books. Also because of the puritanical frugality and stuff that Marilla certainly has and keeps imposing on that household. So it's too opulent, and it was just colored by the 1980s. Now, this I am sure is colored by the 2010s. We will know this 10 years from now. We will know this 15 years from now. Go, oh yeah, that was very 2010s. Oh goodness, what they tried to do there. But visually, this is the closest so far that we've come to what it's supposed to look like. What it's not close enough yet. Again, it's about 15 years off time-wise. It should be even 15 years back in time. I'm just thinking if there's actually a silent movie version. I don't know if there is. I don't know if the 1940s was the first time that there was a movie of it. So I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But that 1980 version, it was romantic. It was nostalgia. It was, and it was all the acting was so good. And it was so pretty that just really ticked everybody's boxes. And it will probably forever remain most people's favorites. But what it did not do is... Anne didn't look like Anne. It's like Megan follows, absolutely gorgeous. We love her. She stays Anne forever. But she didn't look like Anne. And we didn't have things like politics... Now we're getting into an area that is going to be difficult because it's people of color, LGBTQ issues, and First Nation issues. They put that in Anne with an E, and that's hard. So in the Lucy Maud Montgomery books, and I read like 200 of her short stories, there is... so I'm getting a look from the peanut gallery. It could have been 300. She has 400 out, and I just didn't read all of them. There are no people of color in her stories.
You'd have to check. They may
there
not actually...
Are
they
no,
have not been there.
There's no First Nation in her stories.
Again, probably not there. You're gonna have to check.
She may have never been in any sort of contact with anybody who's not white.
Yeah, but she lives there. I mean, she lives in her own time there, and she writes about her about there. So if they are not there and she doesn't meet them, then they are not in the stories.
Yeah, they're not in the stories. So for 2017, they decided, we don't care. We're putting them in. And I applaud that. Because I think that Lucy Maud would have put them in if she had any sort of awareness. If her world wasn't that small. It's probably for most people. We have to be exposed to stuff. And then we go, oh, well, of course. Yes, put it in. And I think she would approve. You know, I can speak for Lucy Maud. She's dead, so. But no, I think she would approve. I don't think that she would have done it the way this Moira Walley Beckett did it. But that's you know, this is a version of now saying, hey, we know these people are here. We know these people were there, and we also know that things didn't go so well for a lot of people.
But that's already in the book. It shows them how
that is in the book.
How bad it went for
orphans, for people who with low income. So the immigrant French people are absolutely in the book. But also later, because in the first book, she just the writer just implies what the life of Anne was, and Anne talks about it. And she's so young. Anne is 11, and she has a motor mouth, and she will talk about it, but without any judgment. She will go, yes, the family I lived with, the guy was always inebriated. He was always, and he was violent. But this was just a question of, okay, Anne made sure she was somewhere else at that moment, or how to deal with that. It was never about, oh, this was bad, he shouldn't have been doing that, because Anne is too young to know these things. So she tells that to Marilla, who is absolutely shocked and doesn't know what to do with that for like quite a while. But she also tells this to the one character I've never seen in any production, so please, Moira Walley Beckett. And anybody else who wants to do a version of Anne of Green Gables, can you please put the vicar's wife in it? Because the vicar's wife is an absolutely essential person to the making of Anne as a moral human being. You can say, okay, we have good building blocks because she's intelligent, she can learn well, and she adapts. Great, but she was also going pretty nuts, and that's clear in every version, is that she was talking to herself in the mirror as if it was another person. It was the only person who was nice to her was her mirror image. And the only one she could count on. She called her Katie. So that's somebody trying to not go nuts. Well, it's already gone nuts, but trying to maintain living. You can also decide not to go on living. It was that bad. So once she's established that she can stay, she's put in school immediately, and then she has to go for Sundays. They all go to church, and after church there's this whole series of things that happen. And one of the things is some of the girls will talk with the vicar's wife. And I think she first goes with like another girl for a while, maybe with Diana Barry, I forget. But, and then after a while, look, the other girls don't need it that much. But Anne needs it, and the vicar's wife knows that. The vicar, for some reason, can't talk to Anne directly. That's probably a male-female thing. But since it's written in the time it's set in, they don't say. But that's what I'm going to assume. So it was up to the vicar's wife the vicar's wife had her over for tea every single Sunday for a few years. And they talked life, they talked morals, and at one point Anne says she doesn't know really why some things are supposed to be good and why some things are supposed to be bad. She has no moral compass. Nobody taught her anything, and most of the stuff that happened to her did not relate to any sort of justice in this world. So she agreed with the vicar's wife that she would never do anything that she wouldn't be able to tell at tea time, not dinner tea time, but at having tea with her. So that was going to be her moral compass for a few years, and I love that touch in the book. So I would love to see that. And no, it's too. Can you film that is the question, but I think you can. It's a scene.
If you have a series, you should be able to film it.
Yeah. So make a series. Well, oh, wait a minute. They made a series. And with an E. A thing that is odd in Anne with an E is that they make a big deal out of the Cuthberts, Marilla and Matthew, adopting Anne. Not a thing. Did not happen in the books. Was not a thing in those days.
Was it a big thing in the old series? I don't remember.
No, did not happen in the old series. Not even a talking point ever. There's not even a moment where somebody goes to the main town registry office to say this girl is here. things weren't that way. These people just were, and sure, a whole lot of bad stuff happened. Well, a lot of bad stuff happened to Anne. So they made a huge deal out of it, and I think that is a very modern way of thinking. Now she's part of the family. She even gets their Cuthbert name. No, never happened. As far as I'm concerned, you could have taken that out. I don't think it improves anything. I don't think it's a bad thing either. It made for lovely scenes. But and she gets to write her name in the Bible, in their Bible. And everybody is just, it's like, ah.
But you lose the vicar's wife.
Yeah, we don't get a vicar's wife. He had time for a vicar's wife. He could have done that.
Maybe they felt that Marilla should have been taking care of that.
The thing is, Marilla cannot. Marilla says, here's the Lord's Prayer. Okay, this girl is next to a heathen. That was the quote from the from the older series. Or two-parter. I'm not sure that that's literally in the book. So don't quote me on that quote.
It's a great quote, though.
It's a good quote. That's the thing. That's where I ran into. There's some really good quotes from the 1980s version that aren't actually book quotes. So they're not up for grabs to use in another production. Unless you pay. Marilla had a learning curve with Anne. And I believe Anne, and later she says in the 1980s production, she says she saved us rather than that we saved her. And they saved each other, obviously. But it is true that they were so in their own tiny little world that was only smaller and smaller and smaller, especially with people like Rachel Lynde around, which is, in every version, Rachel Lynde is a fantastic character, and we do appreciate the actresses that play them, but it's that, like, keep in your own little lane and never, everything outside of our bonny little world is horrible. So Anne brought life into these lives, and I like that Matthew got to live, because at least he got to experience more of that life. And I think maybe everybody was asking for that. Even Lucy Maud Montgomery had said that if she'd known this was going to be a series of books, then she would have let Matthew live a little longer. Yeah. So we got some interesting topics in this new series that aren't in the books, and topics, very moral topics, very ethical topics. We got people of color, we've got homosexual people, we got lesbians. There is kind of a clear character in all of it that is a candidate for lesbian, which is Diana's aunt, great aunt, who kind of like takes Anne under her wing, and in the books she helps her out with university, and then dies conveniently the moment that Anne runs out of money for university, and then the money that Anne inherits from her is exactly the amount that she needs for the next 3 years of university. It's great to be a writer, because you're effectively like doing this. You're God.
Don't be anybody's great aunt, because you're gonna get killed.
Yeah, just better. Yeah, so she didn't die in this one, but she didn't get to go to university in this one. Just she got to go to university. But they made her in this one, Aunt Berry, I forget her first name. She made her a lesbian, and I thought that was perfect. That was the right character to do that with. And there's this whole like culture around her. So there's lots of that.
Sounds like this version, because Peanut Gallery has not seen it. That's why Peanut Gallery is over here.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is a very much polarized interpretation of the entire story instead of the entire story.
I mean, like I said, you go into fanfic very quickly here. And the Sullivan Productions, the third movie, is also fanfic. It's what wouldn't it be cool if, and maybe if Lucy Maud had been in the 1980s, she might have enjoyed writing something like that. I don't know. Something that also can't happen is the horse riding that Anne does. I'm sorry for being down on this. I love this show. I'm not saying this is a bad show, but I'm not going to tell you the whole show. It's 3 seasons. Go watch it. But it's like, okay, there are just things that's like, it's a modern concept. Oh, she should be on a horse. No, Anne was never on a horse. Never, ever, never. Buggies. That's what they did. Buggies with another girl, buggies sometimes with a boy, but that was ooh la la. So, yeah, no horses. No, she does not ride a horse.
You have to learn how to ride a horse.
Yeah, she had a cow.
You don't ride a cow.
Matthew bought her a cow. And why do you do that? Because that means you will always have milk. And you can't be a day without milk in that farming community. So, no, there's no horses. Yeah, we got the head coverings. Now, Anne has her straw hat in the beginning, and then later on there's no head coverings, and the hair's down. And that, I think, is going to get so dated, because When Calls the Heart does that. All those things that are set in like the 1890s and the 1900s, it's like they all have the women walk around without head coverings.
And with the hair loose.
What? Yeah, the hair down.
The hair, the girls, the young girls had the hair in braids and plaits. Mm. And if you're a little older, you have your hair up in a bun or a big bun or a Gibson bun with a hat on it.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of hat it is, whether it is a bonnet in the 1850s or a straw hat in the 1900s, 0.00s, the 1890 to about 1910, indeed, a straw hat, but you have your head covered.
And when you go into somebody else's house, you keep your coat on, you keep your hat on, you keep your gloves on.
And unless you're going to dinner, but then for dinner you actually change into a completely different outfit. And then you even have your hair up if you're invited to dinner because you're grown up and you have maybe a feather sticking from it if you're in the 1890s.
There's this movement from the peanut gallery, a feather. Oh my goodness. There's a bit about corsets, which is, they did that well. You would approve. Peanut gallery. You have to wait all the way till the end because there is this point that you have to be a certain age in order to wear corsets.
Yes.
And they discuss it. And that's the only time I've heard that discussed, not in any other version. So I like it. Gilbert does international travel.
No.
What?
No, just no. In your dreams, pal.
Okay,
in your dreams.
So the whole Gilbert stuff, he has these cool adventures and he brings back our people of color that we need for our story because we needed some people of color. Great, I love it, but yeah, no, not from the books, nothing. No, unless he was a seafaring. I was going to say soldier. That makes no sense. He was a he joined some seafaring some merchants or something. Yeah. But no, he's going to be a doctor, so it makes absolutely no sense. But that means he actually has a storyline, because if you've paid attention, and I did because I watched it 100 times, in the 1980s movies, Gilbert has no storylines. Gilbert has a long storyline with Winnifred. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the name, but I think that's about pretty close to... Wasn't her name Emily in the books? But in the books, there was an assumed engagement. Because he was, by that time, he was at the university, but we don't need to quarrel about that. But it was assumed because he spent time with her. The whole concept of a young male and a young female being in each other's company, unaccompanied, unchaperoned, etc., etc. You were pretty much engaged, says the entire society around you. So that was the information that Anne got, was no, he's engaged. So she thought he was engaged. In reality, This is not a spoiler for the series, only for the books. So don't worry, you can still watch the series. Which is what we're here for anyway. We're for watching stuff. We want the pretty and we want the moving pictures. He had been asked by the family to take Emily under his wing. I still think the name was Emily, but it's Winnifred in this one. So he was asked to take her under his wing, and he's a nice guy, so he does that. But it cost him effectively his social life. Again, he was trying to be a doctor. He was doing the right thing. He's a good guy. What?
I think it was the family asking him to take care of her is shorthand for please engage yourselves together and have a life together. That's how it's supposed to go.
That may have been the message. Can you please see if this is a good one for we're trying to matchmake here.
Yeah.
But there was nothing there because he was already in love with Anne. And so it's never going to be. And he couldn't say no either. So basically, that's a disaster. Now, it leads to a nice scene. I don't know why I'm talking about the book so much because I'm here for Anne with me. But at a certain particular moment, at that same time, everybody thinks that Anne is engaged with suitor number 3. She has at least 4 people that propose to her before Gilbert actually
gets around to it.
This is in the books. Yeah, this is in the books. And so there's this golden hour moment where the world thinks both of them are engaged to somebody else, and they can go walking in town in the countryside together. Yeah, it's that what they do in the 1980s version where they're on their bikes and they're together. It's no, that they did not do that. It's fun watching, but they just weren't allowed to do that. It was absolutely, and they do make a point of it in the 1980s. What?
And this version doesn't get that far.
This version doesn't because they clearly were counting on season 4. And so in the last episode, they had to... Yeah, I'm not going to spoiler it, but I need to say that in last episode, they put a bow on it. They tied it nicely. They wrapped it up with something that really needed to go for another season. Which is a shame. I'm hoping for season 4. I would like that.
And how many years are they? Have they not made any? Or is
they stopped making in 2019, and I think that was aired in 2020. So it's 3 years.
Not even a casualty of Corona.
No, I don't think so. Unless it was a question of now we need to film in 2020 and we don't know how to do that. But then I think they would have gotten over that. Everybody else has. You just found out how to do it and you do it. Marilla's storyline is they put stuff in it that I think that was appropriate and it was good. I like it. You could do a lot more with Marilla, but they showed her as a maybe not a mother but an aunt maybe, and that put her in a whole different sphere because she actually gets asked for I think the sewing circle, because only the women who have kids in the local school go to the sewing circle, that kind of stuff. She was always excluded from these things, which is lovely. Both Marilla and Matthew were basically cheated out of life. Their parents decided to live at the end of the world, which is completely romanticized in the books. Everything edge of the world kind of stuff, Anne of the Island, she lives even further at the edge of the world. She lives on an island with a lighthouse, and she lives the last house before the lighthouse or something like that. I don't know. I mean, some people think it's super romantic. I think...
And we live in town.
I'm a suburban person. I think what's going on is that she was surrounded by so many people in the orphanage. The orphanages were always in cities, and it was always bad for her. And then when she was in houses with loads of people, it was also bad for her. So living in this calm and quiet countryside is probably what Anne wants for the rest of her life. It's just, people do not disturb her. Even though she is a hugely social person. Like a significantly social person. I think they did a great job. I don't know that I made that clear. Amybeth McNulty Amybeth is so good. She is the quintessential, physically she's the quintessential Anne, which is like unbelievable they found her. And her acting is amazing. Everybody else is doing an equally stellar job. I wish them good luck. I would really want to see more. I hope, like, maybe in a couple of years they come back together and they make a new series and they just say, okay, well, we can't do the university years, but let's do the years after that. Please keep it going. And have fun watching it. I just purchased the Blu-rays, so I haven't seen all the specials yet. We'll see how what's on there, but it's a good romp. I loved it. Yay! It's a modern take. It's a rugged take. It's a rustic take. It's not a wimpy take on what this could be. And yeah, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.